Okay, this is going to be power plays for 2023 JO's 16U travel team, Oahu Water Polo Club. All right. So first, our keys takeaway, right? So this is both for offense and for defense to look for or take away the quick, right? So that if the ejection or the exclusion comes out of the center defender, right, then we're looking straight for that center. Typically, they're the open person, right? So we're on a drive, whatever it may be. If we see someone open right in front of the cage, we look for that safe pass, but a smart pass, right, to get it to them. But on the opposite side, if you're on defense, right, you always want to cover right away, right? So we want to flood the middle if that's where this ejection or the exclusion came out of, so that we could cover that quick and help out our defense. Get to your spots and get organized, both on offense and defense, right? So that you can start your possession, right, or start looking for those opportunities right away. Communicate what you see, right? So if you're in a neutral or no shift, right? So that's just your base offense, 6-on-5 or defense 5-on-6. And then 6 ins, all right, or 1 in, or they call it a 6 or a 1 play, 5 wide, etc. Shot blocking and goalie, right? We'll talk about a lot of that shot blocking responsibility, and the goalie responsibility. Blocking scheme, right? Funneling the ball, and that's on defense, and then passing quick on offense, right? So working on getting the defense tired, making them move, right? Seeing if they can cover those the shooting lines, right, or the shooting lanes quickly. Being heavy on the post on defense, right? So looking to make sure that we cover up. Those are the typical highest percentage shots. And then on offense, right, looking to see how much you can move, looking where the holes in the defense are. And then your ability to move, right? So horizontally, can you cheat out? Can you get your passing lanes, right? Can you, on especially in the post, right? How much can you move? And then can you be deceptive, right? Can you look like you're passing one way and pass the other? Can you look like you're about to shoot and make that pass? But all quickly, right? We don't want to spend 5 seconds walking and walking and walking and pass, right? You're don't have a lot of time on a man up, so you want to make sure that you are looking for those advantages. And then on your legs, right? In your block or vertical, on your legs, 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 legs. All right, playing the percentages. So first, we have our penalty, right? So the 5 meter penalty, that's our highest percentage shot. Then our next, we have our dunk on post, right? So that's, say we're running a 6 in, that's a 1 play. We go from the 6 to the 2, dunk on post, right? There's usually the goalie is not able to get there. So that's no goalie, no defender to get through. Then we have our near side or the wing, so the 1 to the 6, and that's one blocker and one goalie. Uh, or sorry, I skipped the post goal. Sorry. So post goal, right? That would be, let's say, pass from the 6 to the 3. So they're shooting through their X3 and the goalie. So that's one blocker, if that blocker is there, and then the goalie. Then we have our near side, so the 1 or 6, and they have one blocker and one goalie. Then our 4 center or a 5 center, which is 3 blocks and a goalie, right? But they're center cage. And then we have our 4 wide, 5 wide, 1 pocket, 6 pocket. So those would be our lowest percentage shots with 1 or 3 blocks and a goalie, and they're not center cage, right? So they typically are shooting through more worse angle with the same amount of hands. Okay, so first just going over positioning, right? So we have our in blue offense, red defense. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then our defenders here, we have one, like X1 here, X2 here, X3 here, X4 here, and X5 here, right? So 6-on-5. Okay, so on offense, right? This is just offense. We're scanning, right? You want to look to scan. You're scanning for the goal, you're scanning blockers, you're scanning the post, you're scanning your passers on top, right? So looking to scan, um, and this is all happening quickly, right? Within under 2 seconds before you pass that ball, right? So we look here on our passing positions, right? Our typical passing pattern. We will not skip going weak side, but we will skip passing to the strong side, right? So not skip weak side, but we can skip going strong side. The higher level you get, the more you could skip these passes if you need to, but we typically want to pass here to make the defense work, right? You want to make the defense work and get them tired, and therefore you might have a longer window of opportunity later in your shot clock. Okay, so here, right, we want to hold the ball for less than 3 seconds, right? Ideally, like 1.5 seconds, 1 second, because we need to get that ball around, right? And if the 4 people on the outside hold the ball for 3 seconds each, that's over half of your shot clock just in passing, right? And we want to make sure that we're looking for those opportunities. So look for those openings. If they're there once, they will probably be there again. And then dry, clean passing, reading your defense, right? Understanding where those holes are, who is not doing their job, and that's where you want to take advantage. Okay, so one, right? Four rotate centers. This is a one up or a ball at six. So six will go in, right? So six goes, if this is a 2 meter line right here, six goes inside the two. And then this shot blocking here, this is mostly for us to notice, right? But our X3 here should be shot blocking the six as we are all sliding in, right? And so when this happens, the twos hits, this two here, they will slide in with with the six, right? And so one thing to note here is that this girl, if she does not slide all the way in, she cannot slide in past her, right? So you want to make sure you're sliding in to give her the best advantage for a pass to a shot, right? But just be aware the goalie's there too, right? So you don't want to pass it straight to the goalie. You want your hips towards the cage so you can come over your hips into a slam, right? Right here, two cannot be more inside than six. So that's our first look, right? As this is happening, our three is pushing out, right, into the X5, and then she's going to flash forward. So as the two is, this girl's moving in, this girl's moving in, looking for that opportunity, then our three is pushing out so that she can then flash forward over her hips for a catch to a shot, right? So this is our second option. First option, second option, right? So we don't want the flash forward to happen at the same time that this girl is moving inside the two because we can't pass to both places at once, right? And we want to have the option, right? So after the two in. All right, so now let's say that that didn't happen. And so now we can pass the ball up to the 4 or 5 here. Careful of the X5 though, we don't want to pass straight into her for a steal into a counter attack, right? So say neither of these options are open, we will pass up typically. And so let's pretend the ball's at 5, right? So if we're looking at balls at 5, this is a pretty low percentage shot. When you're wide, right, you worsen your angle, you're righty on the 4 or 5 side. But here on a higher level, this girl's shot blocking, and then these two girls are shot blocking. And so we have all of that funneling ball here. Now let's say the ball is at 4, right? Your center cage, you have a much better angle, but you still have 3 shot blocks here, right? And this girl is free. We'll talk about that on defense. This girl is free to come and attack you. So also low percentage shot, right? 1, 2, 3 people and the goalie, which is why we work for the post. And then our ball is at 1 here, and so you have 2 shot blockers, right? This defender here, she's coming across, and this girl's getting near side, so also lower percentage shot. Okay, now let's say that the ball is at 1 and we do a 1 in, right? And then our 6, or it's called a 6 up, right? Because the 6 moves into the pocket, the 1 goes in, and so she goes in, this girl's shot blocking, right? And so you would have the 3 here to go in with you while the 2 flashes or pushes out and then flashes forward, right? So that's happening there. So this is our first option, this is our second option. Now let's say the ball goes wide up at 4. So same thing like on this side, but you're a righty, so it's a little bit better of an angle. And so you'll still have, right, a higher level, this girl shot blocking, this girl shot blocking, and this girl shot blocking. Okay, now ball 5 center, you have 3 shot blockers, right? Lower percentage shot, but if they waver, right, if this girl is off, right, you're looking for those opportunities here where the shot blocks are not where they're supposed to be, right? Then you'll have your openings. And then ball at 6, same thing, but on this side. But if you're a righty, this is a really low percentage shot, which is why this defender here doesn't necessarily have to go all the way cross cage if they can cover the cross cage closer to the 3. Okay, 5v6, right? So, sorry, before we go there, 6v5 is mostly, right, we talk about this. So this is the 6 up or the 1 in, 4 wide, 5 center, 6 pocket, right? Memorize that with the 3 in, and then the 2, sorry, this says 1, but it should say 2, sorry. And so it's opposite on the other side. If it was a 6 in or a 1 up, 6 in, 5 wide, 4 center, 1 pocket, 2 goes in, 3 pushes out, and flashes forward, right? So the 6 in or the 1 in, 6 up, 1 up, whatever you want to call it, as long as you know what you're talking about, right? We want to make sure that we are looking for this. And so this is kind of like our base 6 on 5, right? Now looking at defense here, just to go over again, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're the 1, right, so everyone here is in charge of more than 1 offender, right? So when we run a 6 on 6, right, if you're running a front and press, then our we're always in charge of one person for the most part, right? But in our 5-on-6, we are always going to be in charge of multiple people. So if you're the X1, you are in charge of the 2 and the 1. So typically you're blocking the pass to the 2, but you're blocking the shot from the 1. If you're the 2, you're always blocking the shot from the top, sometimes from the 1 or the 6 if they have run and shift, and you're blocking the pass to the 2 and the 3, right? If you are the X3, you're blocking the shot from the 6, blocking the pass to the 3. If you're the X4, it depends if there's a shift or not, but typically you block the pass to the 2, the shot from the 4, but you can also block the shot from the 5 if it's in a zone, or if the 5 goes center. And then 5 is the opposite, where you're blocking the pass to the 3, the shot from the 5, but if it go into a zone and the 4 goes center, then you could also be blocking the shot from the 4. Okay, so let's go through no rotation. So ball is at 6 and there's no rotation. So the only one here shot blocking is our X3 and our goalie. And so she comes over her hips, right? Her hips are towards the shooting lane. She comes over, throws low, comes up high, and now she is blocking that near side there, right? And then the goalie will have the cross cage. As this happens, no one else needs to be shot blocking. So her head is in, her hips are out, right? And she's covering up that 4 or the 5, sorry, the 3. And then her head is in, her hips out, and she's covering up the 2 posts, right? And then this girl, she doesn't have to worry. There could be an overpass here, which she could be ready for, but she's more so worried about this girl getting an overpass because she can always jump over her hips to cover that. Now ball's at 5, and so now we will have 2 shot blockers, right? So let's first talk about the X2. So the X2 here, she is always in charge of cross cage, right? So this here cross cage is on this side, right? Because the near side here, because of where she is positioned in the pool, this is her cross cage. And so we'll have 2 shot blockers, the X2 and the X5, right? So she is shot blocking this near side, she is shot blocking the cross cage, funneling the ball center to the goalie. Now let's say ball's at 4. So now, because of the position that she's in, right, this is no rotation. So this is the ball, this is the position she's in, this is her cross cage. And so now our X2 has jumped over to the opposite side and she is covering here, right? So now we have the X4 doing what the X5 is doing over here, crossing the near side, and she is shot blocking the cross cage, right? And now we're funneling the ball to the goalie. Now ball is at 1. X2 now jumps on the post, right? So we're both 2 here covering this post. This girl jumps over her hips, and now she is shot blocking the near side, and the goalie can cover the other 2/3, right? This is a hard angle, and for a cross cage shot, it's only pretty much gonna, for the most part, you'll see a near side shot coming this way because the defender didn't cover in time, right? So as this happens, these girls are covering up on this post, these girls are covering up on this post, and head in, hips out, head in, hips out. Her hips are behind her, hand over here, and then her hips, she's still having her hips towards this girl's shooting lane, but her hand is closer, right? She's closer to this post. Okay, now let's talk about rotation. Okay, so let's pretend the ball's at the 6, and they do a 1 up or a 6 in, right? So the national team, they call these 1 ups, and so this is where she would slide into the 2. This girl slides with her. This girl pushes out and flashes forward, right? And so that's what happens on offense. On defense, this girl's job doesn't really change. She still shot blocks this post over here. She's covering the near side, and so um, there's a couple things that we have to talk about here. So one is, right, on defense, we know what's going to happen, right? We know that the 2 is going to slide inside the 2 meter, right? We know this girl's going to slide inside the 2 meter. So what this girl does is she shades. So the X2 checks the 3 posts, right, to make sure that she's covered because this girl has to leave her. She sees that she's calling a 1 up or a 6 in, she slides in. And so now this girl, right, and the X5 gets back, right? So she covers for half a second so the X5 can get back. Once the X5 is good, right, and she needs to come down to cover that pass, then the X2 can shade, right? And so by shading, it means that she will cover and she will lunge back, right? So she'll lunge with her left hand in the water and her right hand up in the air it's called a coil. We'll talk about this more in practice. She coils and she jumps back to cover this overpass to the 2, right? So she's covering the overpass to the 2. It's called shading. So she denies the dunk from the 2, right? And as this is happening, the X1 is communicating, right, that the 2 is in to help this girl, right? So she doesn't have to have eyes behind her head. So she's saying, hey, 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and, right? Help, 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 shade, shade, something like that, right? And then the X3, you don't want to get sucked out towards the 6, right? So you don't want to leave her and then you can get shot over, or this girl becomes more open, right? So that's why we don't want to come out that way where then you are out of position. So you make sure that you stay back a little bit unless she really, really like comes all the way in. And that way you're ready for the next block, right? So here, this girl, she covers. This girl, right, she comes back to help on the post. This girl just comes and makes sure that she's good, that she's not wide open because X5 didn't get back, and then she shades, and this girl's communicating. This girl doesn't necessarily have a job here because she's getting ready for that pass to come over here, right? But one thing we want to note too is to be ready. If this girl is pushing and shoving, then this girl also might have to come back and help in case this girl flashes for it, because we know that happens, right? So if this girl gets outmaneuvered. Okay, ball is at 5 wide. So now let's talk about our shot blocking responsibilities, right? So before we only had 1 shot block, now we'll have 3, right? So this is where our X3, right, she steps up with her right hand to cover the near sides. This is a little bit higher level, but we'll see. Well, if you know it, you know it, but we won't necessarily emphasize this. But she is going to cover the near side for the X5, right? So she has a hand up. The 2 will take away cross cage of the direction that the ball is coming from, right? So the ball's coming this way, so she's covering that cross cage. And so she is covering over here, but she's luckily already over here. She's shaded, so she doesn't have to go cross, cross, cross here. So she's already covering this. And now our X5, she's also going to cover the cross, but she needs to be heavier on the 3 post to block, to cover that pass right there, right? So she's both 2 here covering cross, she's covering near. And then our X1 will control the 2 posts until the X2 is there, but she's ready for the near side block, right? So, and then the X4 can play in that passing lane so that if the 5 goes straight to the 1, she could jump up and get that, right? So we have 3 shot blockers and a goalie, right? So 2 cross, 1 near, goalie. We do not necessarily want to come and knock her down unless she moves in, right? Because you will be out of position for that next passer. So it depends how much she has slid, right? But she's supposed to be wide. If she slides center cage, then this girl most likely will have slid out a little bit or will not be center cage. Okay, now ball is at 4, right? So she is the center cage girl. She is going to be the biggest threat as far as these outside players go. And so now we still will continue to have 3 blocks, right? So if this girl was here, she does a cross stroke. She is covering that near side, and now we have our cross. So this X2 stays here, and now our X4 is shot blocking, and our X3 is she's looking out, right? She's getting ready for potentially that pass here, but she's covering here, right? So our X5 steps with her right hand and she stays back, right? Because she does not have the double block. And our X4 steps over to cover, right? She's covering up on this side. And the goalie to the goalie's right, right? And then she can move if she needs to, right? To cover her. And the X2 steps over in the 2 posts to take away the goalie's right, right? So this is where our double block is. So the goalie's left is covered by the X5, the goalie's right is covered by the X2 and the X4, right? And we have our double block, which means that this girl is free to come knock her down if she moves in, right? And here the goalie is more responsible for their left because this is the double block and the single block, right? So this is more covered than this is covered, right? So this is where we cover more on this side. Okay, ball goes to 1, right? Ball goes to 1. So now here we're going to have 2 shot blocks. Now this girl, she is going cross cage again. She's going up on this side, right, to cover that cross cage because she's moving to the pocket. She has a better angle. And this girl then needs to come back and help, right? So this girl immediately, once that pass goes over, she needs to cover that post here. And now this girl, she is covering the near side. She's covering the cross cage, right? So X4 steps back to control the 2 post and gets a hand up if the 1 is in pocket, if she is kind of in that shooting line. And she can also, if the 1, like let's say the 1, that's why this arrow is here, if the 1 kind of moves up too much and she's right there, she can go and knock her down, but this is more high level thinking here. Right, and then our X2, she covers that cross cage if the 1 is in the pocket, moving towards the 3 post, and then our X5, she could be cheating over in that passing lane for this, or potentially for this, right? So here we have our 2 shot blockers, right? As opposed to just the one because she has moved up into the pocket. Okay, now let's say 5 rotate center. So this is a 6 up or a 1 in. So she rotates. We have 1 shot blocker. This girl is going to shade, right? So she touches up on this girl and then she goes and she shades. This girl is covering this side. This girl comes down to help on the post. This girl comes down to help on the post, right? So same thing, but on this side instead of this side. Okay, then we have our ball at 4, right? So the ball is not center, ball is at 4 wide. And so the X1 here, she crosses that near side, right? But this is the higher level, so we won't necessarily emphasize this at the 16U. And then our X2 will cover that cross cage towards the 3 post, communicating with the X5 and the X3. X4 will cover this cross cage here, right? So we have a double block here and a near side here, and the X5 is up in the passing lane, right, for a potential pass here, right? And then X3, she is setting up for that block at 6 in case this girl gets that ball. Okay, ball at 5, girl at center cage, right? So now our X2, she still stays here on that, what that cross cage was. And so now we have our double block here. So this girl, right, she is covering over here, this X4. And so she can be she needs to be farther back. She cannot come out to her because the double block is on this side, right? So the X4 steps over with her left hand. The X5 is taking the goalie's left and she can move up on her, right? She can close her out. The X2 steps over and covers the 3 posts. So now they're covering the goalie's left, and the goalie is more responsible for the right-hand side, and the X3 can start cheating over towards the 6, right, to come and block that right there. Okay, now ball is at 6. So now the X5, she needs to come and step back to cover this post. The X2 is covering the cross cage, and the X3 is covering the near side, right? So the X5 controls that 3 post, gets a hand up if one is in the pocket, and she is able to shot block a shooting lane. X2 checks the 3 post and crosses, and once the X5 gets back. And then if the 6 is in the pocket, the X3 can stay back so that X2 can take the cross a little bit earlier, right? So this is the same thing as on this side, but now on this side, right? So we have our 2 blockers here instead of 1 because this girl has moved into the pocket. And that is everything for our 5-on-6, right? So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different responsibilities. What we really want to emphasize here is that this X2 here understands that she is always crossed when there's no rotation, and then she stays, right, when there is a rotation so that we can get our double block, right? And that the double block is always should be covering here so that our goalie can focus on the other 2/3, the middle, and then the weak side that only has one, in this situation, 1 blocker. Yeah. All right. That is all for our 5-on-6.